Hello, everyone, and welcome to another meetup at Romania Power BI and Modern Excel User Group. Thank you all for joining this 9th meetup of the year. Thank you for spending your time here with us when you could do and you could be anywhere else for another Power BI session presented by two special guests. Thank you, Gregor and Klaus, for accepting our invitation. For our newest members, my name is Cristian Angel, and together with the second Cristian Prifti, the ROPAC co-organizer, we will be your host today. We'll go quickly, as usual, through these introductory slides presenting our next scheduled meetups, and then Gregor and Klaus will take the stage for the featured session. A short Q&A at the end, just before ROPAC monthly raffle with prizes from Enterprise DNA, our primary official sponsor, and I will tell you a bit more about a bit later. This is the usual slide for the session itself. Please make sure that your microphone is muted during the presentation and your video is turned off. Type your questions or comments in the chat area. If you have a question and you want us to say it easier, please type a Q colon in front of it. If you have problems with the internet connection, please drop off and join again. And please be advised that the meeting is recorded. So if you don't want to participate, please disconnect the line. The recording will be posted during the weekend over our YouTube channel, and I will provide the link for it. In terms of future meetups, I will present the two sessions that we are having in August. First one, the Romanian track on the 10th of August with Vali Greavu, which is an MVP alumni with strategies and principles of solving problems, complex problems in Excel. And then the second one, the normal one at the end of August, on the 31st of August, with Brian Julius, with a session, Power BI session, with R presenting us R in Power BI. All our other recordings are, most of them are on our YouTube channel, and if you want to check them, please go to bit.ly/ropag_history. You will see everything there, and this one will be also posted on our YouTube channel. I told you about Enterprise DNA. Since August 2021, we have a very good partnership with Enterprise DNA. They became our primary official sponsor. They have an incredible learning resources on their portal, and they are offering on every meetup of Romania Power BI User Group 2 full annual Enterprise DNA memberships, including 2 annual Analyst Hub memberships for the live attendees of the session. And if you want to participate in the raffle at the end of the meetup, please scan the QR code or go to the short link with ropag32_en. Don't worry if you don't have time to scan it. I will put the link in the chat area during the session, but this is the way to participate in the raffle. Even if you don't want to participate in the raffle, please scan the QR code and complete the feedback form. This will help us improve our future meetups. Coming back to the session today with Klaus and Gregor, this is the first session on an external tool here at Romania Power BI User Group, and I'm glad the first external tool is Measure Killer. Thank you both, Gregor and Klaus, for taking the time to come to ROPAG and introduce it to us. I've used it before, as I told you, Gregor, and I'm loving it, but I'm also very curious what are the new features that you released less than 2 weeks ago when V1 was officially launched. I know Gregor has an economics background and Klaus is an engineer as a background, and I'm really curious, how did you end up building Power BI external tools? So please, a few words about yourselves, and the stage is yours.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having us, Christian. It's nice to be here. Also, a lot of people have joined. That's great. Yeah. So, just quickly, I got into Power BI, over 7 years ago. I didn't want to become an economist. I realized that after the studies, and I started basically as a data analyst at a consulting company in Vienna, and that's around the time when Power BI came out, and I actually wanted to work with Tableau because I didn't know what Power BI was, obviously. And one guy said, "Hey, take a look at this new tool from Microsoft," and I was like, well, I don't know. And yeah, after 6 months, I was hooked, never went back.
Really
So,
cool.
yeah, and now, I have a small company. We're 4 people right now, and we started developing Measure Killer over 1 year ago because we had a client project. They had a really messy data set with so many measures inside, and nobody knew which measures are used and which are not. And out of this, basically, Measure Killer was born. And we never thought that it will become a public tool. We just thought maybe we can fix this problem with it. But yeah, now it's growing like crazy, and we have a lot of people interested in it. And some days we have thousands of users basically, and yeah, it's growing. It's growing, and we hope people like it. And yeah, so. But
I'm pretty sure as soon as more people will find out about it, will use it more. And the start sounds pretty similar with a tabular editor, which started as a need for a certain person. I'm loving it because it becomes part of the community.
Right. Yeah, that's it from my side. Klaus, maybe you.
Christian, thank you for having us. Actually, I gravitated towards data when I joined. I'm originally from Brazil, and I'm graduate. I studied mechanical engineering, and I started working as a data analyst for ThyssenKrupp in Brazil. And after a while, working with Python and Power BI, of course. And then Gregor hired me, and I'm now here in Vienna for 1 year and 4 months already, something like that. It's been, and basically we started developing we started developing Measure Killer as a Python script in the beginning, and then it started growing, and here we are, I guess. And I'm super glad that you like it. I hope we can improve even more.
We are looking forward to it. Let's see what it can do now. Please
Definitely.
make us the introduction.
So this is a Power BI external tool, right? Actually, you can, so it's on measurekiller.com. We have a proper domain. As you can see here, we just released the version 1.0. It took us over a year to reach that. And so you can download it from here. And what it can do is basically it can tell you which measures and columns of your report or dataset or shared dataset are used and which are not used. That's the most basic explanation I can give. But maybe it's best to just take a look at it inside Power BI. So you can also download it from the Microsoft Store, by the way. So you can either download it from our website or from the Microsoft Store. Yeah, that's basically it. And like other external tools, you can also launch it from within Power BI Desktop. We also have a version where you don't need admin rights. So for this that it shows up here, you need to install it with admin rights, like all external tools. But we also have a portable version for people who do not have admin rights on their machine. So imagine I have this report, right? Very simple sales report, sample report that nobody actually uses. It's just for showing purposes. But imagine I wanna see what's going on here. And if I open up Measure Killer, and this is actually what I'm showing now is even newer than the version we released last week. This is already 1.01. So I'm hoping that there are no bugs yet. I haven't tested everything before, so let's see. It's not completely tested yet, so I'm just gonna run everything. But in case we get a bug here, don't be shocked, because this is not public yet.
No problem.
So
we can always go back to V1.
Yeah, exactly. So we will probably release this in the next few weeks, but there's still some way to go. Measure Killer has 4 modes. Yeah, the first one is single report dataset, meaning everything is in one file. Like this sales report here, you can see here, it's just one Power BI file. It has the dataset and the report. It's not some kind of live connection or shared dataset or something. So that's the first mode, and that's what we're gonna start with. Then here, this is if I have multiple reports connected to one dataset, for example, in the Power BI service. But here I need to have all files locally. So I need to download the dataset. I need to download all the thin reports. Then I can use this mode. Those 2 modes are free to use for everyone. And the other 2, those are like the paid features. So we're also selling licenses for this, especially to like bigger companies. And the third and fourth mode, it's basically searching through your Power BI tenant. You don't need to do anything yourself. It automatically finds the connected reports. You just choose one data set you want to analyze, and it will tell you it has those 5 reports in these workspaces, and it can analyze it without doing anything yourself. So that's basically part of the paid features of Measure Killer. But let's start with the simple one first, and I can show you what it can do. So if I open this, the single report mode, I need to do 2 things. Like most external tools, I need to select the port. It's just from the file that is currently open. And then the other thing we need to do is I need to select the file itself, meaning that it will get the path of where this Power BI PBIX file is saved. And we need both, because we need to have the model. Here we get the information of the model, meaning all the measures and columns and tables, but also we want to see about the visuals, about the filters, and for that we need to have the PBIX file. So once I selected this, I can click on run, and now it's doing its magic. It takes a few seconds normally, and you can see already here in the output, I can get this result. I can see my model size is only 3 MB. It's a tiny report in the end, right? But I can see 53% is only used. 47% of my data model is unused. So actually, I don't even need that. I should have kicked it out, right? Christian knows, and a lot of people know, the best practice is to only load the columns that you actually use in the report. That's maybe the most important best practice in Power BI. But in the end, nobody really can follow this 100%, because you also want to try it out a little bit. It's a best practice, but in reality, I feel like it's tough.
True, because true, and especially for the people just trying Power BI, it's usually we'll get everything there, we'll see what we use, but it's not always like this.
That's why, because this practice I think is really good in theory, but in practice it's almost impossible to follow it 100%. That's why I would say every time before you publish your report, before you upload it to your client's workspace or something, I think it's good to run Measure Killer to just see which parts you actually need and which stuff you can kick out. And you can see here the white rows. So every row here is either a measure or a column. Could also be a calculated column, by the way, but it's basically one artifact in our data model. And if it has just a white background, it means it's used. So I can even open it up here. I can see where it's used. So this is used in the active customers visual, for example, on the customers page. Yeah. I can see the country column is used in a couple of visuals. I can see the customer keys used in a relationship. We basically get everything: filters, visuals, conditional formatting, relationships, active and inactive. You name it, anything. Like basically what it tells you is if it's red, it's not used, and you can remove it and nothing will break down. That's the promise. Yeah. Of course, there are some tiny limitations, but in overall, I think that's how it is, and you can trust it. Yeah. And of course, what is maybe the most interesting, if I sort by the size, basically the size it's using of my data model, I can see that the biggest column in this case, the order number, which is like a distinct integer, it has a really big size. It's the most costly column in my data model, and it's not used at all. Nobody needs it, so I can kick it out. That's the whole idea. Yeah, so that's here you can basically already see what you need, what you don't need, and you can go to filter unused, and here you just have the unused artifacts. And now measure killer, right? You can kill stuff. So this option here will let you remove measures, remove columns, or you can even hide the unused columns, because some people say, I don't want to remove them entirely. I want to just hide them. We have a question already?
Yes, and Klaus already answered it.
Oh, okay.
The question was, does measure kill tool retain any confidential or proprietary data if your customer uses this wide across the organization?
Exactly. We get these questions a lot. People are like asking like, okay, what do I share with you? What do you get? Are you snooping on our stuff? But as Klaus, I don't see the chat, but as Klaus probably said, we're only analyzing the metadata. The only thing we get from you is the IP address and if you have a license or not. So we only get your IP address once you open Measure Killer. That's what we get. And also we check if you have a license or not, if you bought it, because that unlocks the paid modules of Measure Killer. That's the only thing we do.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so
no other questions for now.
Okay, great. So if you want to remove measures, there is a couple of ways to do it. You can either remove all unused measures. You just say, okay, just get rid of them. So I can do that, and then it's just double checking. Let's maybe say no, but I can also just select individual measures to kill. So I only have 3 unused measures in this report, and I can choose which ones I want to eliminate. For example, here you can see those 3 year-to-date measures on the right. Those are the unused ones. Now I selected cost and profit. I'm going to go to kill selected. I'm going to say yes. And now it's running a process, just like in Tabular Editor when you execute a script. And you can see they're already gone. But now Measure Killer, in order to have the latest version of the model, it's asking you to run again. So I can just do this since it only takes 1 or 2 seconds. And now I have the latest output with only the year-to-date revenue measure remaining. And if you don't want to do it directly, you can also generate a C# script. You can see it's going to your clipboard, or you can even, you can copy paste it from here, and you can put this, for example, in Tabular Editor. So it's up to you, But since we have this report open here, we can directly write to the model, basically.
I have a question here.
Sure.
Is the C# script working in both T2 and T3?
I think so. I mean, you mean if you have a local mode, or if you're connected to like an online data set or something?
No, the script that you copied in the clipboard. Can you use it either in Tabular Editor 2 or 3, or are there any limitations?
Is it different? Is the C#, is it somehow different in Tabular Editor 3? I don't know. I'm not aware of this.
There are some additional stuff in T3, but
I'm sure this would also work in T3.
T2. It should work in T3.
Yeah,
too.
I think so. I think the logic is not that different. It should work for sure. Yeah. Of course, some people might be scared of doing this, right? Because of course, we always say keep a copy just in case maybe you did something wrong. Also here you can see that I removed those, but I can still get out of this file, right? If I just don't save it, it will not save the file automatically. But what we introduced a couple of versions ago is a restore feature, especially for calculated columns and measures. So that, for example, now you can see here we are. This is the backup it created. And if I put this here, you can see those are the cost and profit measure, and I can basically restore them here, and then they will be back here, including the formatting and everything. So you can always restore stuff in case you made a mistake, and all those backups are saved forever, basically. Yeah.
Cool. So manual backup is not really necessary.
Not really, no. It's always good to just keep a copy of your report in case, I don't know, something goes wrong, or it's always a good idea. But I think it's working quite well. This is still in preview because it has only been there for maybe 2 or 3 months, and we haven't gotten so much feedback about this. That's why we want to keep it in preview, because maybe there's still a bug that somebody could find.
With PBIP and Git integration, it might be different now, but even PBIP is still in preview. We'll see.
Yeah, so this version already supports PBIP. So you can also load a project file into Measure Killer. Yeah. But actually, that only works in the paid mode. Yeah, so it doesn't work through here. Yeah.
Gregor, I think we have some good questions there that are related to this part of the project.
Let me see. Considering the usage effectiveness. I'm not sure I understand this.
Yes. Would we generate false negatives? I guess that's the.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's meant by usage effectiveness, but
Manoj, maybe you can complete the question with some additional context. And
will using a
meanwhile,
VPN affect the IP address license combination? So if you use a VPN, then we only get the VPN's IP address, right? But it has nothing to do with the license. If you bought a license, it doesn't matter which IP address you use, you will be able to activate it. So that's no problem, Paul.
Exactly. We're just gonna get our report will be shown the VPN location and not your actual location again.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you wanna remove columns, which is probably more interesting than just removing measures, right? That's where you can actually gain a lot in terms of optimizing your model. I mean, for us, it's all about making the data set smaller, making everything more efficient, increasing the performance. We have a really cool way of removing unused columns, because Measure Killer will create an M code for you. So you can either choose the remove columns or remove other columns, the Power Query functions, right? And then here in this dropdown, you will see all the tables in your model that have unused columns. So that's why we only see 4 tables, but in the end we have more, because those have unused columns and they're sorted by the total size you can save. So this is like 1.1 megabytes, my fact table. And here basically it says, oh, this is the one I can remove. So I can do apply. I want to create this M code, and now I copy. And it will just copy this M code to my clipboard. And now I can go to Power Query, and I can go here into the fact table. And what I can do now is just copy paste this M code, and it will add a step at the end, and then basically do a select column and selecting everything that should remain. And in the end, just kicking out this one column. I think I'm not authenticated here with the correct account. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah. Now it should work. Yeah, this is actually the old data flow connector. don't use that. There's a better one.
Gen 2.
Yep. So before it was like this, and then Measure Killer adds a step at the end, just a step called columns removed by Measure Killer. So it's a really safe way to remove unused columns, because you could always delete this step and then go back to the original version of your table. And you can see here we still have the order number. I go to the last step, it's gone. Yeah. And then I can just hit close and apply. And then basically and you have to do that manually for every table. Yeah. So if you have 100 tables in your report, maybe you have to find a more automated way. But for us, it's not possible to hack Power Query in that way. So yeah, it's like semi-automatic, I would say, to remove those columns. So yeah, so this is a good question. If you have something that is used somewhere else, so let's take a look at the output here. It could be, you can see here, for example, the costs measure is using the profit measure, right? So Measure Killer will only suggest stuff that is not used at all, meaning the model name is not used in any measure, it's not used in any relationship. So you can basically safely delete that. Yeah. So that's what you can do. You don't need to be worried that it might be used in some other. No, if it's red, it means it's unused. I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, and there is one more question above from Ellison. Is it possible to use Measure Killer on a model file which is separate to the report file?
Yes. So that would be, so if I just wrap this up, we remove the columns. We can also just automatically remove the calculated columns. It's basically doing the same thing as removing the measure. It will just take them out of the model immediately. And this is basically the main mode. This is just to show what it can do, what it shows you. I'm just gonna quickly, this is a kind of extended documentation feature of Measure Killer. I'm just gonna go to my downloads. Here you can see it's generating an Excel file. I'm just gonna do this. And then we're gonna open this here. This is like, because here we have this table, which is good, but Measure Killer can give you so much more. And if I make this a little bigger, you can see we have lots of information here. We have stuff that was already in the main table, but we can also see, for example, I don't know which category, where stuff is used again. We can see the visual titles, visual subtitles, visual type, visual ID. We can see even the kind of dataset ID. We can see the DAX expression, which is super important in some cases. So this is really documenting everything, like the model and the report. Everything will be here. And you can see this is like the revenue measure. Yeah, we have all kinds of stuff. So this is even more than what you have in the main table. And you can get this for every module or whatever you run Measure Killer on, you will get this Excel documentation. So to the other question, this was the simple mode, right? Just single report and dataset. And now what Allison was asking, so the next mode means one dataset connected to multiple reports. And I'm gonna jump this. This is the local mode because we don't have so much time. I'm gonna jump to this one where it will search through my Power BI tenant. And if I go here, I see all the workspaces in my tenant. Actually, this is all the premium workspaces, because we're gonna read the dataset through the XMLA endpoint, and that's a premium feature, so it has to be either PPU or premium capacity workspace. And I'm gonna go to my MK, which I usually use for testing. And in this MK workspace, I'm just gonna show you in the Power BI tenant. This is my MK workspace here. You can see it's a Fabric, it's premium per user. And it's like a weather data set. This data set is getting stuff from a web API. and it has like weather information. And we built a couple of reports on top of this. And you can see it here in the lineage view. And I want to analyze this weather data set. So I'm going to go select this data set, click on connect, and here it's doing this XMLA connection. And that's why I have to authenticate again. Those two, I have to authenticate 2 times because one, we're calling the Power BI REST APIs to get the workspaces, the list of workspaces and things like this. And the second one is the XMLA connection. And this is, like I said, premium. That's why it has to be in a premium workspace. Now we get again a list of workspaces, but in this case, those are all the workspaces in the tenant, because here I can choose where I want to search for connected reports. So what Measure Killer will do is it will see all the reports that I have access to. This is everything is based on my personal user. All the workspaces I have access to, it will search for reports that were built on top of this weather data set. If I go here, just search all of them because, yeah, maybe I want to have all of them, right? It's just doing those API calls now. It just takes a few seconds. And then we will see a list of reports. You can see a couple of reports are in this MK, but there's also one report in the Measure Killer workspace. And those are all Power BI reports. But here we could also find page-init reports. And Measure Killer can also analyze those. So it can also analyze page-init reports. And now I can decide, maybe I want to take out, I don't know, the humidity report, I don't care. And maybe also whatever is in the weather data set, I'm just doing testing stuff that I don't want to analyze anything there. I can take those out. And in this new version, we added some kind of hybrid mode so that you can also, on top of what it finds in the service, I can add local files. So here I could add an Excel file, meaning live connection to the Power BI dataset. If somebody from controlling or finance team, whatever, they built some kind of Excel report on top of this dataset, I would have to have it locally because nobody really uploads those Excel files anyway. So it's better to put it locally here. I could add that on top of this. So then it would analyze all those reports and the Excel file and see also what is used in the Excel file, right? Or I could add, you can see it here, other PBIX files or just normal Power BI files that maybe I have on my local machine, PBIP, PBIR, PBIT. I could add all of those files here and RDL, paginated reports, right? So it could also be a local paginated report and XLSX. So Excel paginated reports and all kinds of Power BI files can be dragged and dropped into this little window here. And then I can hit on apply and it will add this to, actually, let me add, I'm just going to add, well, actually, this is not connected to, yeah, it doesn't really make sense. But you can add them here, you hit on apply, and then it will become part of the analysis, basically. Yeah. I hope I didn't do this a little too quickly, but I'm just going to hit run here because now Measure Killer will do some API calls to get basically the report layout. Again, this is just the metadata of those reports and the data set. And then you can see here it's exporting those one by one. And in this new version, actually, we were able to remove all the limitations when it comes to exporting. Some of you guys will know that some reports in the Power BI service cannot be exported, right? They are built in the browser on top of a data set in a different work. There are all kinds of limitations, but we were able to get rid of them. So now you can export, you can analyze everything. There's no limits anymore. Even reports that are stuck in the Power BI service and that nobody can, or it's hard to download them, at least you cannot download it through the UI. Still, those reports you'll be able to analyze in Measure Killer now with the new version, with this 101. The one that is currently out, it doesn't work yet.
And deleting measures can be done even if the report was built directly online. So you are deleting the measures. Of course, you
No.
cannot delete columns.
No.
But
No,
you can do only analyze, right?
Yes. So if we have the online, in all the online modes, you can see here, those things are grayed out. You cannot, we don't want to write, and we cannot write to the model directly. So basically you will get, for example, here, you can get a C# script. You can do with it whatever you want. You can get a M code for removing the columns, but there's no real automated way. Yeah.
So it's mostly documenting and finding out how bad is the model or how good is it.
Yeah, and of course, then you can decide what you want to remove because you have your model somewhere, and when you redeploy it, you can take out those columns, for example.
Got it. Thank you.
And you can see here, this is a different output now, right? Here we can see that some artifacts are not part of the data set, but we even see the report level measures here, right? This is a measure built in the temperature report. And we also get that. Do we care about it? Not sure. But at least you can see that people also build measures on top of the data set, actually. Yeah. Yeah, and then here, of course, you have the same, you have the Excel output. I haven't shown this yet. This is like a little graph where you can see how many columns are used, how many are unused. Yeah. And then we have some advanced analytics. This is brand new, and my colleague Pedro will show this at the end. Do we have any other questions so far?
There was one from Aurora, but Klaus already answered it.
Yes, so we if you remove some measures in Measure Killer, it always does backups. You can see here, actually, well, here there's no backup because you cannot even delete anything in the online mode. But if you deleted something from Measure Killer, you can restore those measures or calculated columns. Those are the two things it can automatically remove. And if you removed a column in Power Query using Measure Killer, then you will have this step, and you can just remove this step, and then you will have the original state of your table again. So you can remove everything. The only thing I think you cannot go back is if you hid your unused columns. That's gonna be tough to reverse, I think. Of course, once you save the file, then it will become permanent, and if you had no backup, but yeah, so keep in mind that yeah, that is kind of permanent. Okay, I think that's it from my side. Now Klaus will show the admin mode.
Hi, everybody. Okay, Gregor just showed you how to analyze a data set online, but the shared online mode, we only detect connected reports that reside in workspace that you have access to. Let me share my screen.
Actually, that's really important, because if you go, can you go to the Power BI service? Even if you are a tenant admin, in the lineage view, in the impact analysis, you will still only see reports that reside in workspaces where you have access to, even though you're a tenant admin. So here you can see Klaus has 11 reports in what? Only one workspace? No, maybe if you go to the right, yeah, exactly. So he only sees reports in 2 workspaces, even though he's a tenant admin. There are more workspaces where people build reports on.
So even if you're an admin here,
He's an
you're
admin.
just a regular user.
He's an admin right now, and he only sees those 2. I don't know why that is, but we in the admin mode, we will do admin API calls, and then we get everything. So
exactly.
So actually the UI is misleading you into thinking there's only that. But in fact, there are other workspaces, and Klaus will show you that.
Exactly. That's one of the problems that we tried to solve for a long time now, and it just came out in our latest version. And I will show you. I will open the latest version. I will open directly from Visual Studio. This is our project here. But we'll be releasing, as Gregor said, in the next few weeks, hopefully. Still need to do a little bit of testing. So the fourth mode, also part of the paid version, is the admin mode. Obviously, the user must be an admin to run this mode. So that's what the limitation, I would say. And as you can see here, now I have all of these test workspaces here that I cannot see because I don't have access to, because I'm using the API, the admin API calls. But I will analyze the weather data set, the same one that Gregor just analyzed. So this is the last option here. I will click on connect. And after that, of course, I will have to log in my Microsoft account. And here I have a huge list of workspaces that I can connect to. And I will search everywhere, basically. Just wait a little bit. And here we have. So as you can see here, in the workspace column, I see workspaces that I don't have access to. And so basically the PPU test workspace, test 66 and test 67. And of course, now what Measure Killer will do is, if I click on run, of course, I can remove one or two of them. If I click on run, there is another prompt to just to make sure that I want to continue. And this is the important part of the admin mode. So here, Measure Killer is prompting the user. Basically, Measure Killer will provide my user with access to 4 workspaces. Do you want to continue? So basically, the 4 workspaces are PPU test, the forgotten workspace, test 66, test 67. If I click on yes, then Measure Killer, as you can see here, will grant me access to those workspaces, because my user need that access to access the report layout. The report layout is where all the information about the visuals, the filters on visuals, filters on pages, basically the visual part of the report is. And we added this timer here to make sure, because there is some delay when you do this grant access API call. So I'm granting access to my user, and I have to wait a little bit until these permissions are added, actually. But I can also click on refresh users here, and this button will actually do another API call, but I can only do this API call once per hour. So I'll leave it be for now. I will not execute it. I think I executed a little while ago. And now what Measure Killer is doing, it's downloading all the layouts, just the layout, just the visual information. And after everything is done, this little pop-up will appear, and Measure Killer is ready. Do you want to remove the access granted to the workspace? So basically, now that we got the layouts, we can remove the access from the workspaces that Measure Killer just gave us. So we can run yes, of course, I want to remove all of those workspaces. Let's wait a little bit. And Measure Killer will run normally, with one difference. After everything is done, Measure Killer will remove the access, as you can see here. Done, done, done. And what we have here now is the same results with, of course, a little bit more information, because now we run for more reports. So we have the test 66 here. We have reports that we haven't analyzed before because we didn't have access to those workspaces, and that's really important. Furthermore, we have, in this new version, we have added this advanced console. So this is useful for if you want some specific information, you can type in help, and then you You will have some custom commands that you can execute. So for example, if I just want to see all the measures across my reports, I can type in show measures, if I'm not mistaken. And here we have all the measures and some very important information, I guess. Even the expression, everything basically. And well, we can just explore the commands here. They are useful sometimes. You can even get all the workspaces. So show workspaces. This will show the workspaces that you have access to. You can do a show all workspaces, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, that's it. And then you have all the information about all the workspaces in your tenant. Of course, this is only available in the admin mode.
And Christian,
This information,
Go ahead, sorry.
is this information also exportable to Excel for further
Yes.
analysis? Because I saw the
Yes.
workspace ID.
Yes,
there.
of course. You can do a save all workspaces, and then Measure Killer will open this file dialog window where you can save your workspace information. Let me do that. Workspaces, and then I will hit save, and then saved, and then I will open it up. And you will have a nice Excel file with all the information. So this is basically the information that you get when you do the admin call. There is a workspace get groups, if I'm not mistaken, that will have this information. With what we're doing here, instead of a JSON file, we're just putting in a nice Excel format table, more specifically a pandas data frame in Python, but that's not relevant actually. This is available. Yeah, please.
Basically, you are sending some REST APIs to collect all the admin data from there, getting the JSON, parsing it, and put it in a tabular format so it can be exported and analyzed.
Exactly. To be completely honest with you, I did this more for myself because sometimes I needed to debug, especially the workspaces. So I started adding stuff there that after I run, then I could show all workspaces, then I could see the workspaces that I analyzed and stuff like that. We even have, I didn't show, but we can add analyze in Excel through in the local file, so we can. But that's more specific. I will leave it for now. You guys, please explore everything. We have some videos on YouTube that we are constantly adding stuff there. We're trying to, if we have time, but doing some tutorials explaining everything in detail. That will make it easier for the user. Yeah.
And you know, the whole reason why we built this admin mode is that there are data sets, especially in bigger organizations, that are so huge and nobody wants to touch them. Nobody knows what people built on top of this data set. It could be trapped somewhere. It could be everybody's scared of removing stuff from this data set. But especially with this admin mode, you can search through the whole tenant. You will see which parts of the data set are actually used and which parts are completely unused. It could be half the size, right? And imagine you can cut down hundreds or maybe even gigabytes of data from those data sets. And I think that's really the main use case for those online features of Measure Killer, that you can reduce your model size drastically if you just take out those unused artifacts.
Yep, exactly. And I just want to point out something that came up in one of the questions or something similar, that Measure Killer, the mode 3, the shared online that Gregor showed you, and mode 4, the admin mode, they will do the exact same thing as the 2 free versions, the 2 free modes. The only difference is Measure Killer will do everything automatically in the shared online and the admin mode. So it will go through the whole tenant and detect all the connected reports and then fetch the layout, so we can, instead of downloading and then opening the file and then dragging. So that's the only difference. All the other features are available in mode 1 and mode 2. The mode 2 is the shared offline, so very similar to mode 3, but everything on your local machine. You have to have all the reports there.
Really cool. And as I understood, Pedro will show us the advanced analytics part.
Yes, that's the last thing to show. That's something brand new, something we have been experimenting with. This has some stuff in there that you've never seen before, I think. And I'm curious to see your response and see how you guys what do you guys think about that?
Well, thank you. Thanks for choosing ROPAG to preview it.
Hello, guys. Like Gregor said, my name is Pedro. I've been working in Brunner for a few months now. I'm still pretty new in the company, but I've been working with Power BI, obviously, and developing Measure Killer as well with Klaus. I helped develop some of the features of the latest release, and I will talk a little bit about the analytics part, which is one of the main things I've been using my time lately, and we are pretty excited with this yet because it's pretty new for us as well, but it could be pretty useful for the user. So we hopefully can get good insights from you guys to see like if you think it's usable or not for your usage cases. So basically, I will just give a quick intro on what the analytics mode is and what we think about it. So the first thing that we realized when we were building Measure Killer for the latest version and for some versions before is that we have a lot of information in Measure Killer that would be pretty useful for the user. And some of it's already shown in the way that Measure Killer is built now, but there's a bunch of other stuff that we know in our code, but is not easily accessible to the user. And that is the main point that drove us to build the analytics mode, because we are basically trying to make it easier for the user to make decisions regarding the data usage of the model itself and to the connected reports regarding that. So yeah, that was the main driver to create the analytics mode, and it's basically in preview still because it's brand new. There's a bunch of stuff that we don't even know how useful it is or how much information that provides to the user, but we're still experimenting with it, and we divided it initially in two modes: the calculations mode and the reports, pages, and visuals. I will start with the calculations one. This mode basically lists every calculation that you have in the model, and we define calculation here as a measure or a calculated column, which is basically something that can reference another artifact, it being a column or a calculated column. And here you can have the list of all these calculations, and we just built now for version 1.0.1 the hierarchy, which you can see here. This is not live yet, but we built for the latest version, so you can basically see everything that is being used by each calculation in all the levels of the hierarchy. So for example, this measure 3.2 here uses a column, which is the column call size in this test report that I built, and another measure, which is measure 2.2. So if I go to the measure here, you can see that I just use like sample functions here. So it uses measure 2.2 and the column call size, and then measure 2.2 uses another measure and another column. And basically in this view, you can see all the hierarchy. You can see all the columns and measures that are being used for each calculation. And we think that could be pretty useful to map out everything that is being used in our model. And as well to see like all the different usages that you have regarding columns and calculated columns as well. So as well, regarding this mode as well, more things that you think would be useful is these two columns right here. So this one says the number of uses of this artifact, and then the artifacts used. So basically, you can see the artifacts that are mostly used and the artifacts that use more of another artifacts.
So number of uses just means how often it's used somewhere else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And artifacts used, it means how many columns or measures this one calculation is using.
Yes. So yeah, basically we built as well the size of measures here in this page, which doesn't make practical sense, but it's just an estimated size to try to estimate how much of the model the measure is actually using. So this example that I showed you, like measure 3.2, is actually using almost the full model in this case, because indirectly, obviously, but it's using almost the whole model. So that means like every column that I would remove from this model would impact measure 3.2 in some way. So we wanted to build this mode to show which measures are the heaviest or the most used and the most important in the whole project. That was the main point.
So the new thing here is basically we're putting a cost on measures and calculated columns, and we're putting a cost on those, meaning we're estimating what part of your model it is using. So for example, a measure can reference 2 or 3 columns that are super big in your model, and then we'll say, okay, it's using this much % of your model. So we can kind of rank the measures, how costly they are, and also, of course, the calculated columns.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the main point. And lastly, just to finish about this page, we have the distinct column as well, which gives important information regarding which calculations could be removed and how much free space would that gain to the model. So for example, this measure 1.4 uses this column, which is called paginated data source, and that this column is only used in this measure and nothing else. So that's why it's highlighted blue, and it means if I remove measure 1.4, I can actually remove this column as well because it isn't used anywhere else. So this is just an information to give to the user to realize how much space could be freed up by maybe removing one measure.
Exactly. And then maybe we can also take a look at the other page, because that is using the same logic, the reports, pages, and visuals. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. This other page, I think it's the more interesting one because it gives information in a different way. It's basically just say is actually using the final report itself. For example, a measure isn't a final use because a measure will always be used in something else in your report to make sense. You know, you don't build a measure only for the measure. So this page is meant to connect all these final uses like filters, visuals, and everything that's being used by the model itself, like active relationships and stuff. Connect all of that to the actual columns of the model. So I will show you just to explain it. So for example, this lists all the pages in this report that I have, and it says you have the report itself, which is the first hierarchical level, then the page level, and then the visual level, which contains actually model stuff as well in here. But for pages and stuff, it's the visual. And then inside it shows every column or calculated column that is being used directly or indirectly by that page. So that means, for example, if I use a measure in one page and that measure uses another column, that column will be shown here as used in that page, even if it's not directly used there. And the whole point of this page is to show the direct correlation between those two informations and how costly each page or each report is, and each visual as well. So basically you can know, similar to the other page, you can know how much free space you can free up by deleting a page from your report, for example, because then you would know all the columns that are being used only on that page.
Exactly. I think maybe if you can collapse the hierarchy. So the main thing here, we could also have multiple reports here. In this case, we only have one report. If we had multiple reports, we would rank the reports in terms of how much of our model they're using. But the report is the top level, but then we have the pages. Imagine you have a report here, we have like 3 pages, right? And we can see how costly every page is, meaning how much stuff of our model is used on that page, either in a visual or in a filter. And that's really important because imagine you want to remove a page, you can already see before how much space you will be able to free up. You can see which page and then even which visual is using a lot of your data model. Maybe you don't even really need that, right? And that's the whole, that's why I said it's so new. We're putting basically, we're telling you how much storage of your model a page in your report is using. I think this hasn't been anywhere yet,
Yeah,
right?
I think it's the first time when I see an analyze by page, and it's really cool. But one question, is this working on hidden pages too?
Yes, it is.
Because at least me, I still have some pages that I'm using in development, and I still keep them there as hidden pages. And this would be a great opportunity to see that a lot of the model is used by those pages or not. And this could be really helpful.
Exactly. The hidden pages are a perfect use case, right? We also have them for testing and for those kind of things. And if you imagine page 3, let's do page 3. That could be a hidden page, right? And you can see here we have some blue rows, meaning some stuff is only used there. So if I remove the page, I can get rid of that. And here, of course, it's tiny numbers, but it could be a lot depending on my data model size. And that's why I'm saying like this is completely new and we don't really know yet what to do with it, but we're slowly figuring it out and we need your feedback also.
Well, I will put it in the free version for sure.
It is in the free version.
It is.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I would keep it in the free version.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody has access to this. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically that's the point of this page. And I think one other very interesting thing you can do with this is you can experiment what would happen if you were to remove a column, for example, as well. So let's say I want to remove the name column from my model. If I search up name here, I can see everywhere that I can expand it all and see everywhere that the column name is being used on a final use of the report. So that means like if I were to remove the column name from the original data set, it will break.
I think Pedro has some internet issues.
Now we can hear you again.
Oh, sorry.
It would break those pages, right?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if I were to remove the column name, it will break page 1 and 2 because it's being used by these 2 visuals here in each page. So I think it's very cool to see like what would be the consequences of removing a column, of removing a table before you actually remove it. And that's one of the other things you can see with this page. just quickly as well, you can search in every level of the hierarchy. So you can search by the report. So in this case, it's like size test. If I search up, the page, the visual, or the artifact itself, you can search in every level. And lastly, this distinct mode important as well, because it basically tells the code which would be the scope to evaluate if the usage is distinct or not. So explaining that in an easier way, it means like if you search report here, it will say what is being used only by one report and not by the others. So in this case, since I only have one report, everything is distinct because it's the only report I'm using in this analysis. If I switch to page, basically it will do the same thing, but for pages, which means like for page 3, for example, this is only being used in this page of this report. So if I were to remove this page, this size would be able to be freed up. And the last mode is visual, which means if it's only using a specific visual. It's very rare for that, but you can have a case where you only use a column or in one visual in the whole report or in your whole project, and then it will show up here. Like in this case, this column is only being used in a filter and nothing else in the whole report. So the distinct mode here is just to choose the scope of the evaluation.
And we understand that this is quite complex and it's hard to understand. Even for us, having seen it a lot of times, we still sometimes are confused. So we just wanted to put this out there. We will see what people will use it for. Christian, you had really great idea with the hidden pages. Does anybody else have an idea on what to use stuff like this on? We're curious to hear.
Jonas had a great idea in the chat. Feedback-wise, was not encouraging as a default option. Perhaps an auto-optimize option would be popular.
You mean to automatically remove unused artifacts? Or
yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the problem is, the columns you still have to remove semi-automatically, right? So we cannot automatically kill the tables or write to Power Query. So that is the only thing you can do automatically are the hide columns, remove calculated columns, and remove measures. That's you can do automatically. The rest still needs to be done by the user. That's why it would be a limited feature, I would say. For me, the auto optimize would be remove all unused measures, remove all unused calculated columns. That we can do, right? Maybe that's a start.
I'm seeing most of your users, actually, most of the users going for that first and afterwards digging into it. So how can I optimize? So I just press the button and it auto-optimizes it for me.
Yeah.
And then for more advanced users, we're looking at people that would actually look in the back. They're going to see what measure is used. I'm already seeing this going to very simplistic mindset for a developer where he's going to look at what you're doing and then, okay, I have this table, this column that's being used just by this measure. Do I actually need that one, or can I remove it? So the ideal case, that's the one. So people actually simplifying the reports to begin with. But most users, they're probably going to stick with, oh, I press this button and a lot of my concerns are going away. Sure.
Yeah.
Hit me with that.
For sure.
It's a good point,
Yeah.
We're in so deep, right? We have been looking at this for years now. Most people, they want to spend 2 minutes in it and then move on. You're right. Maybe we should build something like this soon.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Pedro.
And just a quick point. We imagine this analytics stuff should be used by advanced users most of the time, and mainly to see what the impact of your actions would be, like adding a new page or removing a column. It's basically like a preview to see what one action would impact in everything else. That's the idea that we have for this. And one last point as well, which is like curious, the size that shows here is the size that would be achievable if you ran measure killer a bunch of times, because this shows what is actually being used by the report and not in the hierarchical level. Measure killer doesn't show this size yet, which is the final optimized size, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that even a kind of template, a local template that comes with the report would be very good to deploy it automatically, exporting this data as a source for the template for the not so advanced users. So as you said, yes, checking the DMVs and everything, it is for an advanced user and it takes some time to understand it. But maybe having a template, a visual Power BI template, together with the tool when you install it and do the link of an export from here and getting it as a source for that specific template maybe would help for the beginners also.
Yeah, sure. Makes sense.
And I have one more question regarding the DMVs and everything. I see that you are checking lots of DMVs and lots of metadata. Are there any plans to integrate Vertipack Analyzer, just like DAX Studio has or Tabular Editor inside the tool?
I mean, we have the size, right? Like that's basically the uncompressed storage that is being consumed by a column. We have the same as DAX Studio already. So that we already have. I don't know, what else would you be looking for from Vertipack?
The entire size of the model, the columns, the hashes, the all the other details that are underneath every table name, every column name, they are already packed there in a compact form. Here, you would have to do an additional step to analyze it and get it in a form to get to see the entire model.
Yeah.
So integrating Vertipack might help.
Yeah, we only have the used and the unused size, and combined, of course, that's the overall model size. And then we just have the columns individually. Yeah, but it's not as good as what you can see in DAX Studio for sure. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. You know, we're open for ideas. I think we got some really good ideas today from everyone. That's that will help us for sure. And yeah, give it a try. There's also a feedback section on our website where we collect bugs and information like that. And yeah, try it out. Let us know. Don't forget to buy it if your company has some budget for it. I completely forgot to say that. We're also selling a license, right? After all. Yeah, but
I'm pretty sure for the admins will be very helpful, and even for end users working on local reports, it is very useful already. And integrating it with PBIP already is a big step, and I'm pretty sure this will pick up in the future months when PBIP will be in GA.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, just a quick correction. We already can use PBIP everywhere, even in the single report mode. We can you can use PBIP files like for the analysis.
Okay.
Really cool. Really cool. Well, if any other questions from the chat, if you have, there was a really cool suggestion from Otilia. Maybe have a revert button after the auto removals. This shouldn't be that difficult to implement, having the backup saved.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you do the auto optimize, once you have to still manually save your file, and then you will overwrite the old version. So that's basically the easiest way to keep a backup. But of course, probably we can also do something about that. You never know what happens.
Your next iterations of the software, I'm pretty sure attendees saw a very good tool that it's really helpful. Thank you, Gregor, Klaus, and Pedro for presenting presenting it to us. It is really cool, and we only have a few more minutes to run the raffle, and then we can wrap up. So let me see how many participants do we have in the raffle. For now, 6 participants. Let's refresh the report. As I said, this is a Power BI report based on a SharePoint where I'm writing with a flow all the answers from the form. So we have 7 answers, 6 participants in the raffle. Let's see if we have all the data refreshed. Of course, we have everything with Power BI, including the participants. I will copy them from here and use the wheel of names. Let me see. This one is the wheel of names. So let's see who are the 2 lucky winners on the Enterprise DNA raffle. Good luck, everyone. Let's shuffle the names. So 6 participants and spin the wheel. Aurora from Canada. Congrats. You are the first winner. Really cool. And let's shuffle again and get the second winner. Drum roll, please. Janut, congrats. You are the second winner. Really cool. So, thank you all again. It was really a good session. Thank you all for attending, and looking forward to see everyone in our next meetups. Gregor, I'm looking forward to have you again with your team next year when you'll have more features.
Yeah.
And everyone, use the tool because it will save you a lot of time. And I'm telling you from experience. I'm a very lazy, I'm an efficient guy, and
Yeah.
I'm always looking for tools like this who can ease up my work.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Christian. It was nice to meet you.
Good to see you, and I will stop the recording now. Whoever wants to stay a bit more for chit chat, feel free to stay on. And
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Stop recording.